Keeps it. Ready? Just to elaborate on something that Sensei was saying earlier, so much of what we do is really fairly simple, and it's the repetition over and over and over again, and it's the instructor's job to come up with different ways of presenting it so that basically a student doesn't realize they're doing the same thing over and over and over again. Oh, we're going to focus on this. Well, I just had you do another 500 arm bars. So one of the things that we've been focusing on in my class was footwork, and part of that comes out of trying to make it a little more efficient. This is some of that comes from karate, more the kicking, striking arts. Pay more attention to footwork. We tend to be very focused from the waist up. What are our hands doing? But the power comes from our legs, and that's where a lot of the techniques actually are effective. The very simplest thing I'm talk about, I'm going to just say, we're going to step in and step back for the very first couple ones we're talking about. And that looks extremely simple, and all of you are going to be bored and saying, why are we doing this? But watch your students, particularly when they first start, they're going, and they'll end up halfway turned around if the person wasn't grabbing hold of them. Okay. Oh, I do have handouts, but if nobody's watching the handouts while we're doing the class, I'll give them to you at the end. Okay? So Peter kind of used you to start with. Very simple. Step in, step back, and I'm going to start, we're standing square. He gives the cross arm wrist grab. Good. All right. So I want to step in, and that has opened up his hand. There's my grip, and I step back. Now Kotegaeshi gets done lots of different ways. Some people are going to go that way, some people are going to go back. I don't really care as long as you compromise the wrist and the person goes down. But for this particular one, I just want 2 steps. And this turns out actually to be fairly hard for somebody who's starting. Step in. My weight is evenly balanced between both of my legs. Everybody's going to be looking at what my hands are doing, but it's my legs that are doing most of the work. Here, I grab, I just get a grip, step back. Everything else goes into position. If I take one more step back, he'll go down. That's not the point here. 1 step forward, 1 step back with my left foot. That's all. Just practice that a couple times. Look at your feet. Watch what you're doing. For all the way through these, at least for the first few, you want to keep your weight centered. A fairly good, solid, not big wide horse stance, but a solid horse stance, and your weight evenly distributed between your feet. And we can do it slow, so we stop at each point and check ourselves and make sure that that's what we're trying to get to. All right. I'm going to do exactly the same thing. The only difference now is what I'm grabbing and how deep I step. So now I'm going to step in deeper. All right, and then step back. And I'll stop there. Don't need to drop him. It's exactly the same motion with my feet. Step in, step back. Now, I'm working really hard with this upper part. I want to cradle his head up against my shoulder. I'm not trying to wrench his neck or snap his head off. I want to protect him. I'm using his head to motivate him to go down. I'm not trying to hurt his neck. So when I step in here, I'm pulling his head into my shoulder. And that locks up and stays put. Where I step back, I'm holding him. He's off balance, but he may be, you're not feeling anything in your neck, right? Yeah, okay. He's off balance. It's no strain on his neck. Okay? Good. So let's try that one. Same start, same idea. Just a little deeper step, reach around, catch the chin, pull it back. You don't have to drop the person. Okay? Thank you.
What's interesting is I don't let go of the wrist.
No. I'm only moving 1 foot. I move it forward. I put it right back where I started from. Approximately a 90-degree step each time. We're going to do the same thing for the next one. And this time I'm going to step with 1 foot. I'll step with my left. And then I'm going to step back, but with my right foot. So I'm starting here. I'm going to end up facing the opposite direction. So again, we've got a cross arm wrist grab. I'm sorry, we've got a straight arm wrist grab. Got what technique we're doing. Basic release that we teach, very beginning as a component to future techniques, is a release from this just by moving your arms. And that's going to be step in and push your elbow in. And then he can't really hold on to that. It's attached, but not very well, right? So from that basic release, we're going to add a takedown. And the way we'll do that is we'll step in. This hand's going to come up in between. All right? I'm not quite 90 degrees, but I don't want to be standing right in front of him. I want to stand next to him. So now this arm's going to come up under his elbow and roll. And now my left is going to pivot. My right is going to step back. Now from here, I could take a step forward or just continue around in the circle. This is not a place I want to stand and have a conversation. Okay? One more time. Okay? So step in. Rotate the shoulder around, and now I'm facing the same direction he was facing, and we've got him starting down towards the ground. Just 2 steps, one forward, in this case with my left foot, and then back with the opposite foot, about 90 degrees, so I end up facing the direction he's facing when I get done. Okay? Okay, I need an arm. I can't use either.
What am I doing?
Okay, we're going to do this. All right. Variation of this. And if you remember the 1968 Democratic Convention, you tell me whether you've seen this before. I have this in my mind that this is the first time I saw this technique, and I have not been able to verify this. But anyway, we're going to start the same way. Just for purposes of since we're watching our feet, we're going to stand square. I'm going to step in and break loose. The only way to get this next technique to work is I have to stay here. I'm going to reach up and grab his shoulder, not his gi, particularly around here or where I am, where half the year all it's going to be there is a t-shirt. I want to grab his shoulder. Now, at this point, nothing's happened. I can't get into this position if I step back first. I have to get here and now step back, and now we have a come along. Okay?
I'm inches from tapping.
Yeah, I'm trying not. Okay, good. I don't want to hurt you. No, that one. Okay. So I'm going to step in, same as before. Reach over and get the shoulder. And now my legs stepping back are what set this arm bar. I'm also turning his palm out. In case it wasn't there already, just step forward this way.
Step this way?
No, just right where you are. That's good.
Sorry.
So I was about here. I want to make sure his palm is out or up when I'm stepping back, just to ensure that I'm getting that arm bar, the hyperextension of his elbow. What's happening is I'm leveraging against my left arm. However, the second piece to this is if he wants to turn into me now, at this point he can't, because he's turning into my own straightened arm and he can't move in. This is one of the reasons why it was an effective come along. All right? So one more time. Oh, I'm going to show you. If I try to do this from here, I can't. You know, I can sort of get it, and you'll see some people do this. Okay, that'll sort of work, but most of the time, no one's wearing a gi. So I prefer to grab the body, step in, catch the shoulder, and step back, turning palm up. And now we have a come along. Questions?
No. checking to see which way his arm will rotate.
Yeah, it's going to go like that. Okay, let's try. You're looking to move on, right?
No, I was going to do it again. When I saw you doing that, I thought, well, I'll do another practice.
Okay.
Want me to grab you again?
Well, let me use Peter, and just to go over why we were doing this. Peter was actually coming in and doing that technique, which is fine. This isn't it has to be very proscriptive. That's fine. The reason that we put this in, we have these from either grip. I can just lever this out. But if there's much of a size difference, I need just a little bit extra, and this gives me a fulcrum now to work against. And having my other hand there, particularly if I'm smaller, a lot smaller than the person who's hacking, that extra leverage helps come out of the grip. Okay? So what Peter was doing this way, that's fine, but the reason I was teaching it this way is to provide that extra assurance. So we're going to do one more from here, but now we're going to go in a different direction. I'm going to step that direction, and what I'm doing is I'm going to spear across his shoulder. Okay. So the release is this. It's just going past the point where he can comfortably hold me, right? But I'm going to step, and now this hand has come under. I need to get my elbow past, clamp. As I step back, that's what's going to take him forward. It could be, in this particular case, his arm bent, and we now have this is a really good lock. It might be his arm stayed straight and I can still hold him. This actually isn't as effective as if he bent his arm, but if I can get him in this position to begin with, the bad guy on the street is going to say, oh, I don't want to be here, I'm going to bend my arm, which gives me an even better hold. All right? So I'm taking a deep lunging step off to his left, and as I'm stepping, both hands are going across. This one's going between his hip and his arm. This one's going over his shoulder. Clamp, step back. And then if you, again, as we did earlier, if your preference is to take him forward, take a step forward. If I want to take him back in a circle, that's fine. What you want to avoid doing, I'm facing the same direction he started in. This is where your second step should get you to, is this position. Try not to do this because I'm weaker here and I haven't moved him. If this is not a good position for me to be, I want my arms and my hands right in front of me. As soon as I do this, I've compromised myself because my legs can't help me now. It has to be my upper body, my arms, that are going to now move him. I don't want to do that. I'm not that strong. So if I want to move him in a circle or move back, we're going to turn here. I want to keep my hands here and step. Okay. So my legs are trying to do the work, and for a lot of these, my hands get in a position they're going to be right in front of me. This is a very strong hold. This triangle. Buckminster Fuller loved them. And the strongest one is here, where equal length on all three sides, and my hands are right in the center. And now I use my legs to step, as if everything from the waist up is frozen. The power comes from my legs. As soon as I step but let my arms move, now in order for him to catch up, I have to pull him through. My legs can't help me. So I want to use my arms as the hold and let my legs do the work to move. Okay, questions? Good, let's try it. Good, all right. Somebody asked, how do I get his elbow to bend? And we had an experience over here. I don't. I'm actually going for just a trap up above his elbow and below his elbow in this triangle, and then keeping that and stepping. So I'm working on an arm bar. But they may choose to bend their arm. You want to show us what you were doing?
Well, yeah, it's more than choosing to bend the arm. When you're here like this and you're trapped, you want to bend it because it's the only way you can go to try to get out, and you really end up hurting yourself more. But you want, see right here, I'm very uncomfortable, I don't want to be here. The only way I can go is to try to take it out this way, and that, of course, messes me up more. But it's reflexive, you want to bend it.
Even still holding it here.
You want to bend it.
But he's not getting it out of there.
Right. The human body is very good at trying to protect its joints, but it's not very smart about doing it, and we take advantage of that. So there are lots of times when the body wants to respond and say, well, this is the way I can relieve this pressure, and oftentimes that makes things worse. So to answer your question, how did I get him to do it? I don't. He may choose to do it on his own. And that's an interesting point in the dojo, because our ukes are very cooperative. They expect I have to go this way. So every one of my students was standing there with his arm straight until one of the newer ones, and he went in and I didn't even get it straight, and as I was stepping around, he bent his arm. That's more likely to happen. That's dojo jutsu, and we have to watch out for that. Recognize the difference between what our students will do when they're cooperating with each other. As Sensei said earlier, we need to do that in order to learn. But then recognize that that may not be the direction somebody goes on the street. Okay? All right. Jeffrey. Justin. Well, I got the first two letters. No, I didn't. I got the first one. Was I even in the same alphabet? Okay, this next one is one step. How I do that step is very important. It's going to be Yoshiro-rote Dori. Two-hand wrist grab from the rear. And what I want to do in this case is I'm going to step back. And I'm going to step back into a lunge. It's important that I get back to the point where I've made body contact. As I've stepped back, I've also brought my hands up. This is a very difficult position for him to resist. He's keeping me from going this way, right? Up and down, he doesn't have a lot of control there, and he's not going to think about that either. My step is back. I've made contact with him. I'm going to just turn my hands, and this next is all one motion. I turn my hands and shoot my arms forward and my butt back. We tried to come up with a name for it, and we called it Kosher tataki. Butt strike. All right. So the hand motion is this. And you see as I bring it up, it's already starting to make it difficult for him to hold. But he still is very difficult. Don't let me do that. Right? Don't let me do that. Very tough to resist, and he's not going to expect me to do that. He's expecting me to go, yeah, like that. Right? Which I can't do. So I'm bringing my hands up. The step, now he wants to get out of the way. The step is here. It's a deep step back, and I'm going to bump into him. All of this is happening at the same time. Hands are going up. And the motion is, as my hands come out, I'm just going like this. So I'm going from a forward lunge to a reverse lunge with intentionality. First time we did this with one of the students last week, The person they were working with, which was one of the other instructors, probably went flying halfway across, well, at least this distance. There was enough force in it that he moved back. He got it right the first time, and that was good. It's a very powerful move. It's kind of a weird looking one, but there are other things we can do from a two-hand rear wrist grab, but if you've got the space to do it, this is effective. Okay? What I'd like you to do, though, is make sure there is space behind you, because some of you may lose your balance, it may progress backwards farther than you may want to, or have enough mat to. Okay? Questions? Good. Let's do that. Just to add to that, the positions that you're going into, you really want a forward lunge, heel planted, and at this point my butt is up against their body, and then you're switching to a reverse lunge that way. So my back leg is straight, front leg is bent, and the strike is to straighten my left leg and bend my right leg. Okay? Okay. Let's do, how's your shoulder?
No, my shoulder's fine.
Okay, good. So this next one, the next two, the footwork itself is changing the direction that we've been taught. And it's actually simpler than we've been taught. So I don't know how all of you have been taught to do this technique, but he does a straight punch. And I was taught that we're going to do this and this here, and then we're going to come back, and I've locked him up in a shoulder lock. Right? Except, hold on, if you were going to strike my hand as my face, ooh, you've done point sparring.
What's that?
Do it like you were going to do it for real, and not. It's and back. That's. Yeah. Okay. That motion is the part that we've been missing when we've been doing the training. So if I do this very static, and we need to in order to learn it. In order to get this position, you show this to somebody and you say, well, it's like this, and it looks like a Gideon knot. So that's not saying that we're teaching it wrong. It's just we have to teach another component to it. So his motion is, and back, that's what I need to work with. So I don't want to be facing that direction. I need to be facing this direction as his arm comes back. Okay? So, hold. What I want to do is this. I'm facing that way, I'm walking past him, and I'm picking up his arm as I go by. I'm going to step in and parry. Try not to drop you. I promised that last year, and then I dropped you. I'm sorry. The important thing is, if I stop and turn into him, I've lost my momentum that way. And that's where all the key is going, because the only motion from him now, he's already stopped his forward momentum, and he's pulling his arm back. My motion has to be forward to get in close, and if I stop here, now I've dropped my own key. And he's going to go pulling this way on me. I don't want to do that. So I need to do this technique folding up and walking past him. The only kind of tricky part with the upper arm is out here. I'm leading with my elbow. Almost like I'm trying to pop him in the elbow, in his face with my elbow. I'm not. But I want to lead with my elbow so I can get in there and grab my own arm. So he comes in, he's here, step back, and we just drop him. I don't need to do anything else. You need to see that? You got it? You want me to see it?
Maybe I could just see it. I want to get your direction right.
Sure. Peter, can I use you? Okay, so what I don't want to do is this. I'm going to walk past him and go here as he pulls his arm back. Now he's There's Dojo Jitsu. He's stuck it out there for me so I could do the shoulder lock. So in this case, I need not full speed, but I need him to return back. What's happening dynamically to him is he's going to pull back, but at the same time, I've just added a little bit of rotation to that. And that's all I've done in locking up his shoulder. I've added rotation and a little bit more, and then I keep walking with it, which he didn't expect. So I've taken his key, added to it, going in that direction. And as long as I stay in this path, then it's effective. If I stop and try to turn into it, which is what I've taught my students to do, because we don't do it dynamically. The student puts his arm out and we go, okay, yep. And they've learned how to create a Gideon's knot, but they haven't learned what happens when he pulls his arm back. So one more, step in, punch. Okay, that help? Okay, good. Okay, so one more thing I want to add to that, even though we're working on footwork. For this particular lock to be effective, there is one thing I want to do, which is to get his elbow on my chest. And I'm walking into that, so it's actually fairly easy if I move this way. It's much harder when we teach this in this kind of static way here. This is where a lot of students will end up. And this is not a lock. This isn't effective. Yeah. I don't have anything against his shoulder. He can easily get up. I need this to be up against my chest. And my arms are just holding his arm in this, trying to scratch his own back position, but he can't get his upper arm out of the way. Okay? Thank you. Okay. So the last one, Justin. The last one is my Ryotedori, and it's a two-hand wrist grab. And this has always seemed like an odd attack. So we learn these things and we say, okay, when this is what you do if somebody does this to you. And why would anybody do this attack? This doesn't make any sense. Well, yes, but there's options. So when I teach the women's self-defense class, we do about half the techniques, half the attacks, we say, this is a stupid attack. Because if the guy actually had half a brain and thought this one through, he'd realize this was dumb. Right. So rear bear hug. Pick them up. Okay, fine. Your groin just got crushed by their heels, and then they're going to put you down and stomp on your foot. And there's all kinds of things you can do. Stupid attack is just usually dependent upon your own fear saying, and you freezing. They're dependent upon that. Bad guys are dependent upon that. So this always looked like a stupid attack to me. It's like, why? I'm standing, what is the point of this? Well, we know the technique, and I was taught hand mirror, you were taught monkey see?
See the monkey.
See the monkey, okay. So, takedown, and I'm going to do is, I'm going to turn my hand up, there's my mirror. This hand comes in and catches the base of the thumb and actually squeezes enough to open that, and then I'm coming out and I'm pushing against the knuckles and doing a wrist turnout. It's Kodaga-esh, as far as his body's concerned, it's just a different grip in getting into it. I've yet to see anybody attack someone like this. It's like, okay, what are we going to do now? Kick you in the groin, probably. Right. But where this might actually make a lot of sense is he's pulling me. Right? So come on back. You're going to need some space. You're going down. Okay? So now he pulls me and he's trying to motivate. This makes sense suddenly. So now we're going down, 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 down. Okay? In terms of what will happen, what is the point of this? There is no attack there. Just to grab somebody's wrists, other than you've got a kid throwing a tantrum, you don't want them flailing at themselves. But more likely, if they grab your hands, they're going to pull you. So now we're going to do the same technique. Now it makes a lot more sense. But I'm just doing the same thing as I did before. I'm walking, 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 walking. Roll, stay on your stomach. And it actually turns out to be a much more effective self-defense technique when he provides that motion and I go with it and walk past him. Just like the last one, I don't want to turn into him and look at him. We're coming in, going back, and then my bonus points here is I end up with him on his stomach, my favorite place to have someone who's attacked me. You're scowling.
No.
No? Okay.
That's all I can do with that.
Okay.
It's nothing.
Okay, questions? You want to see that?
No, I'm good.
You're good? Okay. All right. You done this one?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's... I think the more common name is hand mirror. I hadn't heard see the monkey before, but I like that one. And I believe it's Tekagami, which doesn't translate to hand mirror. Yeah, T-E-K-A. Yeah, it's on my handout.
Tell my students things, then you see the monkey.
Yeah, right. That's and for the longest time I would remember one or the other, and then they'd say, "Is that a different technique?" No, I just couldn't remember which phrase to use. Okay, so let's try. We've got two pairs. We can go this way, start at this end of the mat, and go about half speed, pulling somebody towards there. And if you haven't got them down by the time you hit here, stop, because you're going to run out of space. Okay? The most important part that I ever got out of this initially was, how do I get my hands across? So he would move first, he would extend his arms out, and my instinct is to push back. So he's letting me do all the work to get the hands together.
Yeah. Yours is easier because you're just walking.
But from a static, that's what I got out of it initially.
Yeah.
That was more important to me than the actual hand technique.
You might want to try a couple ways. Mm-hmm. Maybe as you get out.
Yep.
There's the principle of it's not a real attack, but it's the principle of moving, reacting to him pulling you back.
Right. And that's where I taught it was, you want somebody to move this way, try to go the other way, and they'll resist it, and then they provide all the motivating power. So for years, that's what I was using this for, and then I realized, oh, right, pulling, now it makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, a lot more sense.
Yeah.
This is too much work.
Right. Okay, I've run out of things. Anything? Any questions? Anything useful come out of this? Yeah? Okay. All right, gentlemen, thank you. Kids skate. Ready? Sensei?